Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 11 of the Give 'em Heck podcast. I'm Brian. This is your host, Penny. And before we begin, I want to say real quick, thank you for all of our returning viewers for coming back. We're very happy to see you. And welcome to any new viewers. So, interesting little announcement for you. We are going to be opening up a TikTok with small segments of questions that are asked. I know TikTok doesn't allow long clips, but it's something to get people invested in the more shorter segments of each episode to hopefully bring them here to get more context into the larger picture of our podcast. And I know that's going to help out a lot. But we're very excited for that. We're going to call it the Give 'em Heck Hot Takes.
Okay, well, I like that. I didn't know that you had a name picked out.
Yeah,
So
I thought about it. I was like, oh, the little hot takes, just little questions that we present from each episode to, like I said, bring people here. So we're very excited for that. We are expanding our horizons.
I think that's good.
We want people to experience a more grounded concept of life, something a little bit more that other people don't really do, because you see a lot of when people talk about like encouragement, it's a lot of like patting on the back kind of thing, where that's fine,
right?
We offer encouragement here too, but it's always important to be a little bit more firm with scenarios of life, because it's not always sunshine and roses.
It's not.
It really isn't. And we want people to know that even though that's not the case, it's still okay.
Yes.
It's okay to be grounded in reality and not always see things from a, the sky's always clear perspective, because that makes people desensitized to the hardships of life.
Right.
A lot of people can't handle, because when you're pat on the back all the time and don't worry, you're doing a good job, it brings a false reality of like when life does sucker punch you.
Yeah.
It's almost like you don't know what to do.
Exactly.
Because I see it all the time.
Yeah.
In my generations older than or younger than me, I mean even older.
Yeah, sometimes it depends on how they were raised.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're very excited for the advancements of the show, and like I said, we're very happy that you came back and welcome any new viewers, and I say we can get this party started, huh?
Get this party started. Okay, yeah, that's what we're going to do. So again, like Brian said, welcome to all of our existing viewers and, of course, our new viewers. And one thing before we get started, because I really don't want to forget, is it is Memorial Weekend, and Memorial Day is Monday. So I just want to, give out a happy Memorial Weekend. And I hope everyone gets the opportunity to share their weekend with friends and family and, whatever that means, because we always say that friends and family are very important. But also, don't forget what Memorial Weekend really stands for. So I just wanted to put that out there because I didn't want to get to the end of the podcast and then forget about it. So, again, happy Memorial Weekend, and try to get with some friends and family and, share.
And be sure to also take that time for yourself, too. If you need that time away, take advantage of that, too.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with taking that time for yourself.
Absolutely.
Friends and family are important, but
sometimes you need it.
Sometimes it can be like, I just need to step away for a bit, and that's okay. See, that's the interesting thing about our podcast is we offer different perspectives on things, and I like to emphasize the importance of self-reflection.
Yes.
Just time for yourself.
Yes.
And I know you've advocated for that too, but a lot of people, they're not social. Take myself, for example.
Right.
Putting me in a crowd of people, and I'm just like, I'm not feeling this vibe at all, But, you put yourself in a position where you just do what's best for yourself.
Exactly.
If spending time with friends and family is something you do to unwind, go for it. If spending time by yourself is something you need to do, then don't let anybody convict you for that.
No.
Don't let anybody tell you, well, you need to get out more. They don't know what you need.
That's
you
right.
do.
That's right.
So take that time for yourself if that's what you need, and vice versa.
And don't think of it as being selfish.
No.
Because I know that there are people out there, because we've been getting a lot of feedback and good feedback, and I'm really happy about that. And we always say leave comments,
Yeah.
send us an email, let us know. But, there are people out there that have wrote into us and they've said that they've never heard anybody tell them that taking time to care for themselves is okay. They've always been told that it's selfish to do that, that
Yeah.
it's about always thinking about others. Well, there's nothing wrong with thinking about others, but my thing is this. How are you going to care for others if you can't even care for yourself? How can you help others if you can't even help yourself?
Yeah.
So you have to know what's important for you too, and it's not selfish, and
Yeah.
it is okay.
Yeah, I can't stand people that because I've had people do that to me where it's like, well, you isolate yourself too much. Don't you think that's a little rude of you? And I'm like, I need that.
Yeah.
I need that detox period.
Yep.
When you spend countless time worrying about other people, sometimes it drains you.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
It can be. Mm-hmm. It's always nice to help people, but when you don't take that time for yourself to recharge, before you know it, the people around you are doing fantastic and you're just over here withering away. So it's important to take that time for yourself. And like I said a little bit ago, don't let anybody tell you what they think you need.
Right. And never apologize for it.
No. You can take advice. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, people tell me, people will give me their inputs all the time. And I'm like, well, noted.
Thank you. I'll tuck that away.
Yeah. And then let me do what I need to do.
Yeah, because you know you better than anybody else.
Yeah. Self-discipline is important.
It is important.
Self-discipline, self-rest. It's very important. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people aren't really told that much anymore.
They're not. They're told that it's selfish if you do that.
Yeah,
It's quite the opposite.
Not even from a selfish perspective. A lot of people were like, "You need to get out. You need to go see people. You need to go socialize and all this." And I'm just like, I'm glad you feel that way, but not everybody's like you.
Right. We're not all built the same.
Exactly. We're not machines.
Right. We're all individuals. So you need to do what you need to do for you.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So we'll get into it. And so, as always, our disclaimer, we're not doctors, psychologists, or counselors. We're not giving any medical or psychological advice. We're just simply here to discuss real life situations to give hope, encouragement, and instill change. And that, like Brian said, we always want this to just be an open platform, dealing with real life, not telling you what to do or how to do it. We're just coming from our perspective. We'd love to hear from you to see what you think. Maybe you're like, well, that's not how I did it. This is how I did it, and it worked for me, and that's great. We want you to know that it's okay to disagree. Mm-hmm. It is okay because, again, it goes back to doing what works for you. Yeah, we can disagree to disagree, and it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, like I said, we're not all machines.
Right. And isn't that a good thing?
Of course.
I'm glad you're not like me.
I don't think the world could handle two of me.
No, definitely not. So, in our last episode, like I said, we always start with that and kind of work our way forward. Last week, we talked about how am I defined? And we talked about how we all have to make choices, and those choices can come in different forms. Sometimes we actually have a choice, but sometimes those choices are made because of others. They're just putting us in a place where we have to do what we have to do. But no matter what or how those choices are made, they do not define who you really are. So remember we talked about, Brian, how if somebody makes a choice and you have to do what you have to do in that situation, it might not be what you would have wanted to do, but maybe you don't have a choice, so you have to do what needs to be done. And it just is what it is.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't define who you are as far as...
Sometimes hard decisions have to be made.
Exactly. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say. You could sit back and say, well, I don't really want to do it this way, but I don't have a choice because this other person or this other situation that this person is putting me in.
Yeah.
So... also in those choices, we find ourselves sometimes making what we think is the wrong decision or the wrong choice, whether knowing or unknowingly. But sometimes, no fault of our own, those choices, which look like mistakes, can sometimes look like they're really not mistakes. They're just what we need to do. And in the long run, maybe they turn out to be okay.
Well, I've always advocated when I talk to my friends about situations they're going through and decisions they've had to make, I've been like, I get it. The storm's rough. You got to go through it. If you let the storm beat you, then, what else can you do?
Right.
But if you can look through the storm and see the sunshine beyond the clouds, eventually everything will be okay.
Eventually it will. And it's not always, maybe it seems like a mistake or it's a wrong choice in the moment, but sometimes you're just dealt those cards.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you gotta roll with the punches. There's nothing wrong with going through a tough time. There's nothing wrong with going through a storm. There's nothing wrong with getting beat up constantly. You got to roll with it. You have to.
Right.
You can't
because life happens.
Life happens. You can't let the storm beat you.
Right.
You can let it bend you, but don't let it break you.
Oh, see, that's good.
Bent but not broken. You got to be stronger. Because it's not a matter of you have to be stronger. So I'm going to rephrase. It's not a matter of being stronger. It's knowing you are. You are better than that. I keep telling my friends that, and they're like, I don't see it. It's like, I see it.
I know.
I know it. Because if you can go through what I've gone through in my life, and I know there's people that have gone through much worse than me, so I am not saying that I've been through bad things to the extent of somebody else. But I've been through it. I've been at rock bottom.
Right.
And if I can do it, then I see the person next to me and see that potential strength in them and be like, you're better than that.
Right.
You can get through it.
You can. You can. And I like the way that you said it that way, Brian, because I remember when I was going through with that situation with Mom, especially at the end after she had passed away, everybody would say, you're so strong, you were so strong. And it used to bother me because I'm like, I wish people would stop saying that because I didn't feel strong.
Yeah.
When you're at the bottom of the barrel and you can't get any lower and you're looking up and people are saying that to you, you're like, why do they keep saying that? But like you said, when you're in the storm, you don't see it. But now that I'm gradually, coming out of that, I can see why they would say it. Does that mean right now I can sit here and say, I think I'm where they think I am as far as being strong? No, I don't feel complete yet.
See, I would have rephrased it. I wouldn't have said you, looking from an outsider's perspective and say, you're so strong. I would have said, you can get stronger. Keep lifting. You'll get there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You will.
Because it's like I saw an image a few days ago of this knight standing over a little girl who they were in a war. And she looked up at him and was like, you're so strong. Thank you for protecting me. But in his, the camera view of his back was just covered in arrows.
Right.
So she didn't see what he was going through.
Oh, wow.
And it's like that.
Yeah.
You fight through it.
You do.
To protect others.
Well, what else are you going to do? Sometimes you're not left with the choices you would have made. You're just left with choices that you have to make. So, but you will get through it. And am I better today than I was, months ago? Yeah, but I haven't arrived. Sometimes it's just going to take a long time to get there. But you know what? That's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because you won't get there overnight. Now, maybe some people would. Maybe some people do. I think it depends on the situation you've been through, but I think you need to learn to be patient with yourself and know that you need the time.
Like I've said in other podcast episodes, it's being self-aware, knowing your own limitations. This is why I advocate so much for the self. It's not because I want somebody to be selfish. It's like you have to know what your limits are. And don't force yourself to go beyond those limits because that's going to not just be detrimental to the people around you, but it's going to damage you the most.
That's true. That's true.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just got to step back and let, as cruel as this is going to sound, sometimes you have to let the person beside you suffer for a bit because you're suffering too. You know, just take a step back and be like, I want to help you, but right now I just can't.
Yeah.
I need to recover.
Yep.
And that's not selfish. Some people will say it is. Some people are like, well, I'm going through a harder time than you. Why won't you help me? And be like, well, I'm sorry. My limitations aren't the same as yours.
Right.
So.
Yeah, again, because we're all individuals. And how are you going to help somebody when you can't help yourself?
Exactly.
So it's okay to take a breath and step back for a minute. So I kind of think you probably read my notes.
No, I haven't read nothing.
I know you didn't because they were on my computer, so there's no way you did. So in today's episode, which we kind of led into that a little bit, we're going to discuss what you make of life versus what you learn in life. Okay, so what you make of life versus what you learn in life. So I'm going to ask you, what does what you make of life mean to you? What you make of life, what does that mean to you?
I think for me, if you say, what do you make of life? I think of it as, it's not a linear question to me. It's almost scenario based. Like when you say, what do you make of life? I'm like, what do I make of situations?
Okay.
How's my outlook on them? How can I build my own path on this road? Where one person could look at something as really bad, I can look at it as a net positive and make my own way through it.
Okay.
So when you say, what do you make of life? I can make it whatever I want.
Really?
It's like an unmolded clay pot. I can turn that into anything I want. It could be the worst thing ever, and I could say, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to make that what I want it to be.
Okay.
That's how I see it.
Okay. So let me ask you, what does what you learn in life mean to you?
What I learn, it's adaptation. It's a way I can learn from the scenario to turn other situations into something that, again, that I want them to be in the future. It's a long-term perspective.
So it's not in the moment like the make of
You
life.
can make a situation what you want it to be, and then you can learn from it to adapt other situations, whether they're the same or similar, into a path that I am already founded on.
Okay.
It's injecting myself into it.
Okay. So do you think that they're connected when I say what you make of life versus what you learn in life?
I think it's all in a situation that I want within my control, to make it the best in control as I can get
Okay.
it to be.
Okay.
Because obviously some things are out of our
not in
control,
your control.
but how I can mold and adapt those situations can help my outlook in a long-term perspective.
Okay. So this is what I think. I believe that what you make of life is like going through the motions.
So you're looking at it from more of a, I don't want to say a negative perspective, but
No.
maybe more of a just going with the flow kind of thing.
Yeah, because we're all trying to make it. Maybe it's more of, we had a podcast one time we did on existing versus living. So when I say what you make of life, to me it's kind of like just existing. Like there's, not to say that there's no trying in it, but it's kind of like, this is how it is.
Wouldn't you say I could look at that and be like, well, if what you make of life, well, isn't that just how you make it?
See, that's how you think of it.
Because for me, I try not to. I've been helping out some friends this week with some things, and I look at their situations and how not linear, how short-sighted it all is. Mm-hmm. Like they live in the here and now, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that, their emotions are invalid, but it's like my friends are like going through some things, and they they just seem so defeated. And I'm just like, why are you so focused on the now? The situation could be bad, but you've got so much more.
And I think that's where I'm looking at when I say what you make of life. It's just kind of like,
That's why I said it was more perspective based.
here we are.
Yeah. But why?
Maybe because, Brian, in some respects, for some people, I'm not going to say all, of course, maybe, like you said, why? I think there could be a number of factors that make people feel that way. One could be maybe they just feel like you said it's just a hopeless situation. Maybe they don't feel that they as a person can handle that situation. Maybe it's just easier. I'm not saying it makes it better. I'm just saying that maybe they're just at a place in their life where it's like, I can't do this anymore. I just basically I'm riding the wave and that's it. Good or bad, I don't know. I'm just saying when I say what you make of life, that's kind of how I see it. It's just kind of like going through the motions, like, here we are.
It's a very interesting contrast to our perspectives.
Yes,
That's a very interesting perspective. I don't know if
because you're coming out fighting, and I'm thinking of it like, why bother?
Well, I just look at it from, and I speak to, or I'm speaking to a lot of people. I'm not speaking for, I'm speaking to, that there's so much more to one or two scenarios. You know, like one of my friends is upset about a date that she went on. And, you know, I get it. I went through a breakup recently myself. So I know the struggle. But the difference between her and I is that I don't linger.
Okay.
She lingers on it. But she's so focused on the good that she lost that she's not focusing on the bad that she had.
Wow.
And that's why I say it's a very short-minded view. And I know it takes a special person to really just kick somebody to the curb who did wrong them. I'm not saying that, because I've seen how people deal with relationships. So it's not that I don't understand. What I would rephrase it as, why settle at the bottom when you have a ladder right in front of you? You know? I'm not saying don't go through the grief.
Right, and that's what I was going to say. I think sometimes it depends on where you're at in the moment. So, again, I'll take it from the perspective of where I know. Like, again, with mom and dad's situation, I just got to a point, Brian, where I just was so tired of dealing with it, the emotions, physically, mentally, emotionally, that I didn't care anymore to fight. I didn't want to. It just, to me, it was kind of like just getting up in the morning and getting dressed was a battle. So I think it depends on your situation. Yeah, you can say it depends on the person. It depends on their perspective. Maybe it has to do with their personality. Maybe it depends on where they're at in that situation.
I think that's too, like, I don't mean to cut you off, but like, I think that's why I focus so hard on encouragement.
Yeah, you do.
Because I see so much more than just
You do.
what's in front of us. You know? So I don't want people to think when I say all this that I'm being insensitive.
No.
I see it as, you know, you got knocked down, let me help you back up. You got knocked down, you got strength left. That's why I say you're so much better than that.
Where do you get that strength, that drive from, Brian?
You mean me personally, or
Yes.
where I get it to tell people?
No. Well, you couldn't tell people unless you had it personally.
Oh, I've had it. I've had it. It's kind of like the same thing with, like, I don't want people to think that this is how I've been my entire life. You know, I didn't grow a backbone until I was in my early 20s.
Right.
So, like, you just, for me, there's two sides to a coin, right?
Right.
You can have one person that goes through the same situation and just is defeated by it. But then you have somebody again, I'm only speaking for myself when I say this. So you have me who goes through that situation and says, not letting that happen again, and I keep moving forward.
That's amazing. Is there ever a time, though, that, and I said this to you earlier this week when we were talking, that you remind me a lot of myself when I was in my 20s and 30s. That drive, that nobody could stop me. But that one moment in life where my whole life was just turned upside down, I lost so much of myself that how can I say it? I said this to you before, and I think I've said it in a podcast, is that there was a time when I looked in the mirror and I felt like I had aged 100 years, like I didn't even know that person anymore. And I'm gradually getting it back, but it's still a struggle. There's still moments where a lot of that will just come rushing back. And when I look at you, I don't see that. I don't know. What's the difference? Is there a difference, or is it just because I got kicked down so hard?
You want me to be honest with you?
Oh, God.
I think in that moment when you were at rock bottom, I think you lost yourself.
Oh, I know I did.
I don't think you realize the strength you have because I think you refuse to see it.
Why? Why do I not want to see it?
Because I think a lot of people are afraid of their potential. I think a lot of people are afraid to admit that they are stronger, because I think you made a good point when you said that it's easier to lay down. It's easier to lay down than stand back up. But you realize that when you do stand back up, that it wasn't as hard as you thought it was. Which is why I encourage people so much. I don't baby them when they're down.
Right.
I grab their hand and I pull them back up and I say, you keep going because I know you can. There's a difference between somebody saying, do it because you have no choice, and saying, keep going because I know you can.
Wow.
It's easy to quit.
It is.
It's easy to give up.
It is.
It's easy to fall.
It's comfortable.
It's comfortable. But when you have somebody within themselves that know they have the strength to push forward, it speaks so much more volumes about oneself. Because what would be more encouraging to see? A leader fall and say, I can't do this anymore? Or a leader that gets up beaten and broken and says, we aren't done yet?
Do you ever have a moment where you're just done?
You saying me personally?
Yes.
No.
Oh, God.
Because the point is I know that I'm too good to quit. That's the strength I push others towards. Because it's not a matter of being like, I no longer have the strength. There are times I get tired. Which is why I also encourage people to take that time to themselves.
That's true, you do.
But when you come back out of that room after recharging, you're ready to take on the world. And darn it, I'm going to help people along the way.
I know you will.
It's like an analogy I told one of my friends once. I was like, imagine us walking down a beach, and we've been walking for days, and all of a sudden you fall. You can't go any further. Mm-hmm. Well, I've been walking just as long as you have. Mm-hmm. But then all of a sudden you feel yourself start moving again. And then you notice, oh, I'm not walking anymore. I'm being carried.
Oh, yeah.
It's like that.
Yeah.
And then once your strength is back, mm-hmm. then you can help support me. Mm-hmm. We do this together.
Right. Wow. So your perspective of what you make of life is so much different than mine. But I like yours so much better. Because for me, it's just like saying, well, it is what it is. We're going through the motions. I'm just here. I'm existing. I hope I have a good day.
See, I'm willing to look at that day and be like, I hope it's not a good day. I say it's going to be a bad day, but I'm going to make the best of it.
Maybe in that case, it'll turn out to be a good day.
Well, like you said with the title of your thing, the day is what you make it.
That's true. Perspective.
You have a bad day. If you want it to be a bad day, you can make it a bad day.
It's true.
You
Yes.
have all the power in the world to make it a bad day. Now, I'm not saying making a tired day. I've had bad days at work. But it's up to me to determine what that day turns into.
That's true. Because I can honestly say that there ain't many times that I see you come home. Yeah, you're tired. I get it. You work long hours. But I can honestly say that I don't really see you ever come home in a bad mood. Not really.
Neutral at best.
Neutral at best. Yeah.
Or I guess I should say neutral at worst.
Right? However, again, right? Perspective. So that's kind of where I took the outlook of what you make of life. Now, when I say to you what you learn in life, and you gave your opinion, what I think of when I say what you learn in life, to me, that's living. Because when you learn from what you think might be your mistakes, or what you look at as maybe regrets, or you look at a situation that maybe you could have done different or better or whatever. Because we're all faced with situations in life. To me, it's not about I should say it this way. It's not only about how we handle those situations, but it's how we learn from them. Does that make sense? So we're always faced with a situation. We have to handle those situations. But to me, living is when you learn from those situations. Like you can look back in your life, and I'm sure everybody, yes, right? Because we all have lived life. We can look at something in our life in the past, whether it's a long time ago or short-lived, where we can say, I wish I could have done that differently. But it's learning from those situations that I think that's where you really learn to live. Does that make sense? What are you thinking? I know you're thinking of something. Go ahead.
See, again, I love the difference in perspective here because for me, people always make the same mistakes. You can learn from your mistakes, but people always still make the same mistakes. I can't tell you how many times I've made the same mistakes, how many times I've seen my friends make the same mistakes, how many people that I don't even know from groups that I'm in who make the same mistakes. The difference between learning and repeating, I think, all comes down to adaptation in those things. You can make the same mistake time and time and time again. Learning from it is being able to rise above it. In the sense of, like, for example, I can make the same mistake at work over and over again. But it's learning how to take that mistake and build on it to make it something that's not a mistake. So, like, if I forget to take stickers out of a car, which I don't do, but I'm just using it as an example. Instead of being like, oh, well, I forgot to take those stickers out again, it's going to ruin the price on those vehicles. Instead of being like, well, geez, I can't seem to get that out of my head and, not and correct my mistake, I could be like, let me go out and deal with every single one of those cars at the same time before they go. And then before you know it, you've got 18 vehicles that are completely clean that are all ready to head out at once.
So it's how you looked at the situation.
It's how I looked at it.
Okay.
It's why I say it's adaptation. It's not learning from the mistake to prevent it from happening again. It's, if it does happen again, how can I make sure to capitalize on it?
Oh, I like that. My God.
And make it into something that's not a mistake.
So can you look at your regrets in life and turn those around?
Well, obviously some things are set in stone once they're in the past, but it's more of like, I know I'm going to probably make that same mistake, but I'm going to compensate for it in either another way or maybe in how a situation will turn out. You know, like if you're a perpetual liar, well, you can compensate by that by owning up to the lie. You know, instead of just letting it go and being like, well, nothing I can do about it. Just got to live with it. No, there are ways you can fix that mistake. There are ways you can adapt to your mistakes. And even in regards to some other podcasts that we've had, the one about your faults, your failures, well, those failures are still going to be there, but how you capitalize on them in the future is what's going to make all the difference.
So is it how you think about them now? How you...
It's building on your weaknesses.
Okay, I understand. Because there's things in the past, obviously, you can't change, right? Like you said, they're set in stone. But you can look at those things now, and instead of looking at them, and I'm trying to make the point of where I think you're going with this, you can look at those things from two perspectives. You can look at them and say, well, that was a mistake. That's a regret. I shouldn't have done that. Now I'm angry, blah, blah, blah. Or you can look at it and say, okay, maybe it didn't turn out quite the way I wish it would have. I did what I did, but I want to find the good in it. I want to find...
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like with Nana. When she passed away, I could never understand why you never cried. And you always said to me, because I'm not thinking about the bad in this, I'm thinking about the good memories. Is it kind of like that?
Yeah, it can be related. It's more of just like being aware of your faults makes you the person who you are. And you can't change mistakes. You can't change who you are. People can change their actions, but people are still who they are, faults and all. And it's accepting those faults that make you the person you are. It's like if, and of course there is a limitation on this, but you have, like, take narcissism, for example, somebody who thinks they're the greatest person on planet Earth. That's something that can be fixed. But somebody who's proud of themselves, not arrogant pride.
Okay, this is great.
But somebody who knows that they're better than who they think they are. Like, take me. I know I'm not the greatest person on planet Earth. I would never say that I am. And I don't put myself below others. But I use my strengths and my confidence to boost somebody else up. But if you have a narcissist who knows that they're wrong, that's something that they need to change. And use that narcissism that they had, not to make themselves better, but to be like, I know I can be better than that. So I'm going to turn my attitude from I think I'm the greatest person on planet Earth to I know I am, and I'm going to help you up because of that. It's capitalizing on weaknesses, essentially. You use your weaknesses against the negatives, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's great. So really, you're basically, and you've said this before, Brian, you're perfect in your imperfections. Exactly. So instead of looking at your imperfections, your faults, your failures, or however...
Because it's a mindset.
It is.
If you let your faults defeat you, then there is no point to trying to boost yourself. But if you look at your weaknesses and say, this is where I failed, or this is where I struggle, or this is my problem, if you let that... Be better than the problem. Overcome it. It's like constantly failing at, let's use a military example. You know, you got those instructors who just keep pushing and pushing and pushing their recruits to get better. It's not because they want them to revel in their failures. They beat them over the head with their failures so that they can continue to grow and be better. Like, oh, this is something you struggle with? Well, let's keep going through that struggle so you can learn to get better at success.
So you've turned a negative into a positive.
Well, it's like people who would judge me in the past. I could sit there and say, well, they're judging me because of this. Well, I'll never be better than that. No. I could have gone one of two routes with that. I could have said, well, this is how I am. I can't change. They're right about me. Or I could go, yeah, I may not be the thing that they think I am or be the thing that they want me to be. No. I'm going to be proud of myself because of how I am. And if they don't like it, that's a them problem.
And do you become better in that?
I become what I am. I'm not better. I'm not worse. I'm just me. And sometimes coming out with that confidence, even in the failures, that can sometimes make a person self-reflect and be like, wow, if they can deal with themselves and their issues and their problems, why can't I? And then before you know it, you draw people in.
Yeah.
Because people do crave a leader.
They do. Yeah. You're very much a leader.
No.
So I believe that this is where you're truly defined. And when I say that it's about what you learn in life, it's not about, and you kind of gave me a different perspective on it when I was saying that, what you make of life compared to what you learn in life. And I think where you learn in life, that's where you're truly defined. Do you agree with that? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because you're gonna, you don't have to learn. You can keep repeating the same thing. Mm-hmm. But I think when you do, then
learning from a problem doesn't always mean you have to change it in the future.
Does it mean you have to change yourself?
I think it means you have to realize who you are.
So it's not really about changing anything.
You can always improve yourself, but that doesn't mean you're not going to make the same mistake again. It's like expectations. If you strive to fix a fault that you have, number one, there's always going to be another problem that you have to replace it because we're human.
Right. Yes.
It's like I keep talking to people who are like, well, I struggle with this addiction or I struggle with this issue or I keep putting myself in this financial problem. I'm like, well, capitalize on it and fix it and move on. And they're like, well, what if I make that same mistake again? I'm like, let's assume you do fix it. And let's assume you never make that mistake again. I guarantee you 110% something else will replace it. And I tell people, don't focus on the negatives because if you do, that negative will destroy you. Instead, realize that mistakes are going to happen, faults are going to be made, and you will fall, but get right back up. Because you know what? You're better than that. And it helps people to not be so upset with themselves when they make the same mistake again.
I think that's the big thing. And that's a lot of the part, Brian, where I think people stay in that rut is one, it could be from expectations or living up to other people's standards. But we're our worst enemies, aren't we? Mm-hmm. I mean, our minds can go to places where somebody might not even think that of you, but you will always think the worst of yourself because that's just inherently how we think.
Yeah.
We are our worst enemies. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think you're right when you say to focus on, how did you say it? To focus on the positive of the negative?
Yeah.
Like turn the negative
Capitalize on the negative.
And make it a positive.
Yeah.
And don't get so upset when you make those mistakes.
Yeah. It's like making financial problems. Like, oh man, I shouldn't have spent all that money. Now I'm in the negatives for this week. Well, you know what? You being sorry for yourself is not going to fix anything. Instead, do something about it. That's what I mean when I say step up, get back up. Don't let the problem defeat you because you're the only one who can fix it. Mm-hmm. So instead of dwelling on the negative and be like, well, geez, what am I going to do now? It's like, no, you have options. Mm-hmm. That's just all up to you to deal with it.
Right. Yeah, because
of course, that's just one situation. It could be multitude of things. It's let's use dating, for example. People are often stuck on it. Like, oh, well, I lost. Yeah, but you can gain so much more. And you have so much more. you're still breathing. So start running.
That's good. That's good. Because it's true. When people focus on just the negative, it'll beat you down, not just physically, but mentally and then emotionally. And then you find yourself in such a rut that you feel like you can't get out.
Yep. That's why I don't focus on negatives very much. Not to say that they aren't there. Of course they're there. But worrying about the negatives is not going to help you overcome the problem. And that's what I think when you said to learn from your mistakes. It's not so much learning from your mistakes to keep those mistakes from happening again. It's learning how to fix them the next time they happen.
And knowing that it's okay if they do. I think that's a big part of it too, is people want to feel like they're just going to be on this straight road the whole time. And, that moment of relapse or that moment of that mistake or that moment of, I don't know, put whatever situation you want there isn't going to happen. I think you're fooling yourself if you think that it's not going to happen. It's not a straight road from here to there.
Right.
There are going to be times when you are going to fall. There are times when that thing, whatever it is, it's going to rear its ugly head again. And you know what? It's okay if you fall. It is. Okay, step back. Step back a minute, look at that situation, and look at it from a positive, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's turning a negative into a positive, and you're the only one who can do that.
And know that it's okay if it happens again and again and again.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you can fix that problem, but something else is going to pop up to replace it. You're not perfect. You're going to make the same mistake over and over again, and like I said, even if by some miraculous chance you never make that mistake again, another one's going to pop up.
Right.
Because that's life.
It is life.
And it's okay.
You think we're too hard on ourselves, Brian?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's not enough of that drive for people. I think that's why a lot of people that, enter the world for the first time, I'm not saying born, I'm saying, people who are let out into the world to live their own lives, they struggle when bad things happen because no one's ever told them that bad things will happen. A lot of people are just let out in the world thinking, you got this. It's all sunshine and rainbows from here. Nope. If people were told that, bad things are going to happen and you need to prepare for them, it's more about preparation than learning.
Okay. Why do you think we're so hard on ourselves?
Because I don't think we realize our potential. We don't realize what we have within us that can help us get through these things.
Where does the lack of that come from?
Could be a learned thing. Could just be the people we surround ourselves with. This is why I think it's important to have people who are willing to tell you the hard truth. And a lot of people don't want to do that because we're more obsessed with not offending. We're more afraid to step on somebody's toes than we are to just tell them how it is.
But aren't those people better for it when they do get told?
Absolutely. I would much rather be told a hard truth than be told a comforting lie.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Because I remember that day when you and I were in the kitchen and you had told me to get a check on my anger. I wasn't happy with you about that. But you know what? It made me step back and reflect on myself, reflect on my situation.
Now, would you have rather me had said something along the lines of, you're very angry. Maybe you should relax for a little bit. Or maybe you should go find something to comfort yourself. Or would you have rather me have told you exactly what I told you?
And in the moment, I didn't want to hear that from you.
But it's what you needed, wasn't it?
It was. And I'll tell you why. Because in the moment, I was already hurting. That's why the anger was there. But if you wouldn't have been honest and upfront in how you said what you said, I don't think I would have stopped to realize that there's a problem here. Because that's what made me realize. Because I remember stepping back and looking at you and thinking, Is he crazy? I'm not that angry.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, in the moment I didn't, but I'm glad now. Okay, so you said now are you happy? Yeah, I am, because it helped me. Not
See-
only it helped me in a couple ways. I don't mean to interrupt you, but it helped me in a couple ways, Brian. One, it helped me to realize. Two, it helped me to step back and take responsibility for the action that I didn't even realize I was doing.
That's why I say it's important to have people around you who are willing to tell you the truth you don't want to hear.
But it also helped me to not only realize it and take responsibility, but I think it moved me into a pathway of healing because I got a grasp on it and realized, okay, this isn't a good path.
Because I didn't have to tell you what I did.
No.
I could have walked away and let you deal with that. And it probably would have ended up real bad.
Oh, it was going down a dark road. Yeah. So, yeah, it's okay to be honest up front, and sometimes, like you said, even a little hard, right? Yeah,
I think people need more of it.
I think so. It's hard to be that person, though. It's hard even to hear it, but it's hard to be that person, right? Tough love?
Yep.
Because you never know how that person's going to take it.
Well, you always figure out who a person really is when things are bad. It's very easy to be happy and to be something you're not when things are good.
Yeah.
But once life starts falling down around you, you'll see somebody's true colors.
Always.
And the thing that I've always emphasized when I say people don't change is you can see a change when you confront that person on their problems, when you confront that person on their actions. And accountability is everything.
It is.
And there's some self-awareness that clicks with that realization. Like you experienced that night when I told you that you need to get a check on your anger.
Yep.
Because it may not have been what you wanted to hear, but it's what you needed to hear.
Right.
And it didn't change who you are as a person, but it changed your outlook.
It did.
And that's what's important. That's why I say it's a very big mental thing. It's not a soul thing, it's a mental thing.
And that change for myself didn't happen overnight.
Nope.
It
Never does.
That
Do you think I turned out this way overnight? It took a long time to get to this point.
and a lot of discipline.
A lot of self-discipline.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Because see, the difference between like in this podcast of people watching and experiencing our lives is that you have me telling you this. Nobody was there to tell me this.
Yeah.
And that's why I know it works. Not because it's not like a program, you know.
Right. It's not like turning
Follow
on
these
a light.
steps, you know. No. It took a long time and experience and pain to bring me to this point. That's why I say if I can do it, then I know people listening can do it.
Oh, absolutely. But I think a lot of it too, Brian, is like what you said. People need to be told sometimes the hard truth.
Yep.
But we've been brought up in a society that we think if we tell people what they need to hear instead of just telling them what they want to hear, or maybe we think they should hear, but me.
I think the problem, and I'm going to emphasize what you just said, I think the problem is because people hear what people are told what they want to hear.
Does it help?
No.
How's that working out for you?
It's very dangerous to tell people what they want to hear.
Yes, it is.
People need to hear what they need to hear, even if it hurts them. Because that's the only thing that can help a person change their perspective on life and change their route.
It's true.
Stop babying yourself. Stop thinking of yourself as if you're not good enough. Stop having a very negative outlook on life.
Mm-hmm.
Turn that negative into a positive. Because you're better than that, you're stronger than that, and you have everything in your power to do that.
Right. And I've always loved that saying that you say, Brian, that you're perfect in your imperfections, because I think that takes some of the, I don't want to say responsibility, but I think that takes some of the burden off of you as far as the feeling that you either have to live up to an expectation or a standard because you in your mind have set that for yourself, or maybe someone has set it for you. So when you say that you can be perfect in your imperfections, I think that gives you a little bit of permission to know that it's okay to make mistakes, or that mistakes are going to happen, or that failure will happen again, or that addiction will show up again, or that whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's okay.
Yeah.
Because I think we've been trained in our minds to also think with that is that you can't fail. If that happens again, you're done.
It's limiting.
And very hard on that person that tries to live up to that expectation, because we've talked about this before. Where's the bar? Where's that marker?
Well, it brings a perspective of, well, it brings not just a perspective, but it brings a feeling of freedom.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. It's kind of like telling yourself, it's okay if you fall, fail, or whatever. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with it. And it gives you permission to know. For me, anyway, it gives me permission to know that it's okay to fail or fall.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
There's not a level of expectation you feel you need to reach, even with it, if it's with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it brings freedom.
It does.
That's what people need. People don't need to be told what they need to improve on. People need to be told that no matter what happens, no matter the path or the mistakes you make, that you're still a wonderful and unique individual.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
Because there's only one of you in the whole world, flaws and all.
Mm-hmm. And you're a great addition. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So I also believe that it's about you as an individual making choices, but learning through those choices. And when you learn through those choices, those mistakes, or whatever, however you want to categorize them, you can begin to heal, because learning is living.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense? Yeah, it does. So I think that's where we're going to wrap it up tonight, unless you have another comment or concern or question or...
I guess I kind of just want to really drive the point home that I'm not expecting people watching this podcast or listening to us through other platforms that I'm encouraging failure, because I'm not. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes, but that doesn't mean you go looking for them either. Mm-hmm. Live life to the best that you can.
Yeah.
Live life positively.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is, when those mistakes happen, to rise above them.
Yeah.
To be better than them. To learn how to conquer them when they rise again.
Mm-hmm.
It's like constantly fighting, not because you feel you have to or that you need to, but because you can.
And knowing that it's okay if they do. I think that's a lot of the times too, is that we...
Because I've had people tell me, like, I don't mean to cut you off, but like I've had people tell me all the time that I sound very I'm encouraging people to make the same mistakes. And I'm like, well, let me ask you this. If you could truly change and make mistakes that you've made absent in your life, why do you still fail? Why do you still make mistakes? Whether it's the same ones or different ones. you're obviously self-aware enough to know that mistakes are going to be made or that have been made. Why do you continue to make mistakes?
Because you're human.
Bingo. That's what I mean. That's why I don't make mistakes sound as detrimental as people think they are.
Okay.
Because I know that a mistake is only as bad as you make it. Not saying that a mistake can't be a good or a bad thing. To me, mistakes are neutral. When a mistake is made, I own up to it.
Because it's going to happen.
Yes. I own up to it. And I'll probably make the same mistake down the road. But you know what? This time, I'm not going to let that mistake dictate who I am.
That's good. That's really good. There it is. So tonight we're going to wrap this up, and just to let you guys know, like we always say, believe in yourself, be patient with yourself, and know that your best is always good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And as always, we can be found on many different platforms like YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. Please like, share, and subscribe, and turn on any notifications so you'll know when the next podcast is coming out. And leave comments on our email, which is givemhec@gmail.com. That's GIVEMHEC@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And I think that's it for tonight. And again, have a great Memorial weekend, and we will see you on our next podcast.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.